Hey, what's up, everyone? I have a little bit of time between my two meetings I do on Wednesday, and I just ate. So I figured I would do another video, and this is kind of inspired by the first meeting I went to. That was at 5, which is the Quitting Kratom support group. It's kind of like not a 12-step program, but it's kind of like an AA or NA without the 12 steps, and more specifically focused on kratom. And so that inspired me to kind of make this video with the main topic of my kratom use, my history of that, and a little explanation of the kratom as well, just because that has been a pretty big I have a long running history of having abused that. So yeah, I just wanted to do this really quick before my Smart Recovery meeting starts at 7, which is about 24 minutes from now. So I'm going to try and keep this more short because after that's finished, I would like to play some, hopefully maybe finish off Super Metroid tonight on stream. And, so I want to do this now, and then that way I can kind of work on uploading it. And then be able to play games tonight. So, and another thing too that kind of popped in my mind, I do realize that for many of these videos, I've worn either this, another tank top, or like I think there's a few with a regular shirt. I mean, not that I feel anyone's gonna judge me, but I do want to state that I swear I own more than 3 shirts. It's just that when I'm at home. Actually, when I'm at home, I'm typically not wearing any sort of upper garments, whether that be a shirt, tank top, etc. But, just so that way I could be appropriate for being on video, I wear the tank top. So I just wanted to make that clear. Yeah, before I get into the kratom, today's been a really great day. IOP, my intensive outpatient, went really well this morning. I volunteered at the Recovery Cafe, got a really yummy lunch, came home. I was able to get a ab workout in, and then, like I said, I went to the kratom support group, and then I'll be doing the smart, and then some video games tonight. So it's, been a really great day. I've still been having some lingering cravings for the kratom. I don't feel physically unwell. Like, I feel more rested and more rejuvenated, but I don't know, it's for some reason it's just still like it's been popping up in my head more often. I think I just mostly because I had those more intense cravings when I was not feeling so well last week. So yeah, so I'm just trying to deal with it as best as I can. Because that's the unfortunate thing with kratom is, I can't say this with everything I say in this video. I mean, take it with a grain of salt, please. Don't, if you watch this, don't take everything I say as truth. As far like, I'm trying to be as accurate as possible, but I don't know everything. I'm human. So I just want to let you guys know that, but. As far as I know, I think kratom is legal in all of the states. There's some places where it is illegal. I think like Thailand's one of them. But for the most part in the USA, kratom is legal. And I bring that up because the issue is that it's pretty available, especially where I live. I mean, everywhere you go, you'll see smoke shops or head shops or even gas stations that have signs out front. We have kratom. So it does make it a bit more difficult because with these cravings, if I really wanted to act on them, it wouldn't be that challenging to do so. So I really need to be especially vigilant and adhere to my recovery plan so that way I don't slip and just end up walking down the store, buy some, and then take some, and I just really don't want to open up that can of worms because the withdrawals are pretty bad. They were pretty bad for me, but I'll get into that in just a little bit. But kratom, I believe it is it's a tree that the leaves contain the active alkaloids that make up kratom. But it's a tree in like Southeast Asia. I don't know exactly what country specifically. I think Thailand is one of them, and that's probably why they have it. I think that's why they have it made illegal there, because I mean, that's where it's being sourced from. So of course there's going to be probably people abusing it. Yeah, so Southeast Asia, it is a member of the same family that coffee is in. So that's kind of an interesting fact. But yeah, so it's totally legal. You know, with the leaves, they dry them out. Typically, if it's like a decent kratom blend, they'll take the stems and the veins out, so you're just left with the leaf material. That'll be dried and then shredded into a fine powder. And there's different ways. There's different ways you can get kratom, and there's also different ways you can take kratom. And also, I know, you know, some people say kratom, some people say kratom. I mean, I kind of use them both interchangeably. So sorry if that's going to be a pet peeve for anyone watching this, and, you know, is thinking, oh, you're mispronouncing it. Yeah, so typically, at least what I did, I would buy the powder, and at first, you know, I was buying it in small amounts from the head shops. You know, typically it's sold, in like 1 ounce is usually the lowest amount you can get. Other places I've seen, they have like 30 grams, 60 grams, 120, and even bigger bags. I mean, after a while, because that is dramatically more expensive than ordering it online, I eventually moved to ordering it online, a few kilograms at a time, because the cost per gram was way cheaper to do it that way, rather than, you know, going and getting some every day. And that did take a while for me to start ordering it online, because I did have that addict justification of, well, I don't want to get too much of it because I'm going to quit tomorrow or I'll quit next week. So I don't want to buy like a kilogram and then be stuck with it. But of course, I mean, day in, day out, I'm going to the head shop every day and buying some. So obviously, I mean, that's not logical, a logical thought process. And, you know, yeah, it did not help me at all. So yeah, so I, you know, with the leaf powder, some users, myself included, would do what's called a toss and wash. So you take some amount of powder. Dosing depends on, you know, what strain it is and what color of the kratom, and also just even batch to batch. I mean, there are differences. But with the toss and wash, you know, you just take some powder, put it in your mouth, and some, you know, I was even doing it with water, but some people do like juice or something flavored, so that way, because it is pretty bitter, not exactly a pleasant tasting substance, and then they'll swish it around and then swallow it. Other people can take the powder, put it into a drink, like, you know, like a shaker bottle perhaps, shake it up and then drink that, or throw it into a smoothie. I've heard of people making tea out of it, pretty much the same way you would do, you know, brew a loose leaf tea. And then they also are sold in capsules. You know, I used to do those too, because it makes it a little more convenient to dose, and also that way you don't have to really taste it, but that's usually more expensive per gram, and the onset of effects takes a little bit longer than if you were to just take the powder, because those capsules have to break apart, and then the powder can, you know, be worked on by your intestinal tract, or your gastrointestinal tract. But also other ways, what some people, you know, really get into hot water with, they sell extracts of the kratom. And I believe there's two main alkaloids in the kratom plant that are responsible for the, oh, I should have mentioned this earlier, opioid effects. So Kratom is an opioid, but it's interesting. It's not like a traditional opioid, or I should say opiate. You know, like codeine and morphine, which comes from a poppy plant, opium. You know, this is a pretty different chemical structure, but it binds to the same receptors, the mu opioid receptors in your brain. So it does produce similar effects, but there's differences. So yeah, so I should have mentioned that a little earlier. And the effects are kind of dose dependent, and again, kind of with the different strains and whatnot. And I'm just realizing, yeah, I could talk about this for like hours and like really elaborate. So I'm still gonna cap this off at 7 and post it, but maybe I'll make a part 2. But anyways, at lower doses or like with a weaker effect, it's kind of like having a really strong cup of coffee or a few cups of coffee, but without the jitters. You know, so you're more social, you're more like awake and kind of euphoric, you feel good, you want to talk, you know, it can help making menial tasks more interesting. So like I would typically take it when I worked retail. I mean, I was even taking it with nursing, but that's because at that point I had become physically dependent on it. And if I didn't dose, you know, more than like 6 to 8 hours, I would already start going into withdrawal. But yeah, and then the higher doses, the more you take, it does produce a more traditional opioid-like effect, where, you know, you're more relaxed, a little bit more euphoria. You might nod out. It can make you itchy, can make you nauseous. Your pupils will constrict. So mostly how other opioids will affect your body. What's interesting is, from what I've read, it doesn't cause respiratory depression the same way that other opioids do. And I believe they're doing some studies, or looking into maybe making pain medication that is similar to it, so that way people can take that for pain relief and not running into the issue of overdose and dying because they stop breathing. But yeah, so there's tons of alkaloids in the Kratom. Maybe if I do a part 2, I'll do a little more research. But I do know the 2 main ones. Probably gonna butcher them, but there's mitragine, and then there's 7-hydroxymitragine. And I believe what I read, those are 11 times and 17 times more potent than morphine, respectively. So that's pretty crazy. But of course, it's in such low concentration in the leaf that, you know, you're not like just getting totally bombed by taking, you know, like an equivalent volume or weight of, you know, pure morphine. So yeah, I guess I'll just briefly talk about the different strains. I mean, there's all different strains. There's like Bali and Mangda, Sumatra. I mean, it's kind of like how they sell coffee in stores too. You know, you have those different blends. And then there's 3 main colors. There's white, which is more stimulatory, less opioid-like effects. There's red, which leans more towards the opioid-like effects, not so much the stimulation. And then green kind of sits in between those. But again, that's not, you know, 100% the case, or, you know, it really does vary. And that's kind of what's unfortunate too with the Kratom, is it does vary. So you have a general idea of what you're getting yourself into. Like I would do red Bali for the most part, because I like that more opioid-like effect. But even then, you know, from batch to batch, even from the same supplier, you know, you might have a little bit different effects, or you might need to take a little bit more or a little bit less, and also factoring in your tolerance, how much you ate, etc. So, you know, there is a lot that comes into play with that. Yeah, so that's kind of the basic gist of Kratom. What is really unfortunate, kind of why I want to make this video, is kind of a cautionary tale to people, and that's also what I wanted to do with the laughing gas. To preface this, I mean, I was aware, I really am interested with all sorts of drugs and pharmaceuticals and how they act on the brain and the body. So, especially if I'm taking something for the first time, I want to know exactly what it is, what it does, what sort of desired effects I should expect, what sort of, side effects or even adverse effects I should expect or plan for before I take it. So, I knew what I was getting myself into when I started using the laughing gas, especially heavily, and I also knew what I was getting myself into when I started taking the Kratom, especially heavily. But the precautionary tale is, there's still a lot of people that don't understand or don't realize how powerful and captivating the Kratom is, and nitrous too, but that's not what this video is about. Because it's, which makes sense. I mean, it's like, hey, we have this powder, it's natural, it's legal, it's available everywhere, so it's like, okay, well, this can't be too bad, right? Until you've been taking it for, like 7-8 years, like myself, and, getting up to doses of 75 to 90 grams a day, a pretty substantial amount. Usually when people start off, 5 grams, 3 to 5, even maybe up to 10. But of course, yeah, as you continue to use it, your tolerance builds, and then you need more of a dose to achieve the same effects. And then, of course, then when you abstain from it, whether voluntarily or not, you do start to withdraw because your body, your homeostasis, your brain chemistry has changed. It's reached a new normal to acclimate to those opioids, those chemicals being in your brain. So when you take those away, it's going to go back to homeostasis, and that's not going to happen overnight. So, so my experience, I guess I'm fortunate in some ways with the Kratom withdrawal. I didn't really suffer any of the gastrointestinal effects. I mean, some loose stools or diarrhea, but really no vomiting or nausea while in withdrawal. But for me, what really screwed me over, what I really struggled with was, like restlessness, especially at nighttime. I mean, I occasionally get restless leg syndrome. Actually, I'd say it's like half, maybe it's sometimes a little bit more on a nightly basis. I mean, there's nights where it's less severe than others, or, I count my blessings when I get the nights that I don't have that at all. But withdrawing from opioids, can cause restlessness. So I also had an increase in anxiety. I was diaphoretic. I was sweating a lot. And then, of course, not just from the restlessness, but just general insomnia as well. So I wouldn't sleep very well. And of course, just the general anhedonia, lack of feeling pleasure that you encounter from withdrawal from pretty much most drugs. Again, because your brain's so used to having that substance and reaches a new baseline. It used to make you feel good, and then you start taking it so long that it's what you take to feel normal. So then when you go without it, you feel like crap. So because of the physical withdrawal and also kind of the psychological, that the craving and addiction, one, to alleviate my physical withdrawal symptoms, but also two, to feel more happy or euphoric. And of course, in hindsight, that wasn't really true happiness. I mean, that's just really artificial euphoria. But because of those two things, I struggled for a long time trying to quit Kratom, or at least reduce my intake. I can't really taper. I just don't have that willpower. Some people do, and kind of take less and less and less over time, and can eventually get close to zero, to where their withdrawal isn't as severe or as long as if someone that just quit cold turkey straight up. But most of my attempts were to try and quit. But I was unsuccessful because I felt like crap. And I would just give in. I mean, it was just so difficult to sit there tossing and turning, sweating, feeling super anxious, super restless. knowing that I could just hop in my car, drive down to the head shop that's like 7 minutes away, buy some, take some, and then have that all go away. So I got 5 minutes left. So I do want to eventually talk about my history of taking it. But I think I'll probably lump that in more with my general history of other substances and kind of how my adult life has gone. Because I think it would be a little more suited for that. It would have more context. You know, I've been clean since from the Kratom since October. I think it was 15th of 2021. I had quit for a little over a year when I did the nitrous binge, but I did eventually get back into taking the Kratom because I was trying to essentially cheat the system, and you know, Kratom doesn't show up on most drug tests because it's not, like I said, it's not structurally very similar to other opioids. So unless they specifically test for the metabolites, it doesn't show up on drug tests. So my hope was, you know, after getting all these positive UAs for ETG, which is a metabolite of alcohol, because I just couldn't stop drinking. Okay, I'll get the Kratom, I'll take Kratom, and then stop drinking, and then, you know, I just fly under the radar. And again, you know, that I feel really crappy saying that because I mean, that's just so dishonest. And honestly, at the end of the day, it was just hurting me, myself, in my recovery. You know, the courts, I mean, no matter what I did, I mean, they're not really going to be affected by my decisions. I am. But of course, that didn't work because I'm an addict and alcoholic. So I was taking the Kratom and drinking. But then, you know, I did eventually quit. You know, I didn't have the money for it, or not much money. The court was gonna make me go into inpatient for 28 days. So, I talked about this on stream, I think. So I quit in the comforts of my home. I would much rather withdraw at home than in a facility where I don't have, you know, my, full freedom to do whatever, you know, whether that's, taking a shower at 3 a.m., hot shower, that sometimes helps. Or in my case, I drank pretty heavily. I mean, I was drinking heavily throughout the whole time, but especially so during the withdrawal. And I was sick with COVID, so I was already feeling pretty crappy, so it actually kind of worked out well. I mean, the withdrawal really was masked by the COVID symptoms. And then of course drinking. So yeah, I've been clean since then. I'm really fortunate. I really don't want to go back to using it. The physical dependence, it's horrible. You're tied to this drug. I mean, and of course that's addiction with everything. But especially so with, you know, drugs that have withdrawals like that, where you have to take it to feel normal after a certain point of use. So I'm gonna leave it there, because I want to hop on my smart recovery meet and, like I said, play some games. But this might be part 1. I'm not gonna label that. I'm just gonna label it like something Kratom, and then maybe a future video I'll talk a little bit more about it, or again, like I said, you know, do more of a just general timeline of my adult life, especially focusing on substance use, and then kind of squeeze it in there in terms of dates and times and how long. But I took it for many years, the Kratom, so I'm glad to be off of it. So yeah, so thank you for listening. I will hopefully I can continue this motivation and inspiration and post some more videos daily for a bit, but I can't guarantee that. So thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time.